Hey, I'm Jonathan from Tiny Shiny Home, and our family of 6 is building an off-grid desert homestead from the ground up in Cochise County, Arizona. A few months ago, Ecoflow sent us a Delta Max 1600 unit to review. It's an all-in-one unit that does DC power, AC power, and can be charged from solar panels. We actually made this unit part of a permanent install in our Shelter Logic rebuild project, so we'd have AC power in our garage. But the cool thing about these boxes is that they're portable. So today I'm going to take you along as we use the Ecoflow for various projects and chores here around the homestead. Let's see how it performs. All right, let's get it out of the garage. So I'm going to unplug the solar input because we have a solar panel on the roof charging it, the AC power, and we're also doing USB lights with this USB plug. Now, looks like we're at 100%, so that solar panel has charged us up to 100%, so that's what we get to start with. Now, here's the thing. It is portable, but it weighs about 50 pounds. So I'm gonna throw it in this gorilla cart while we take it around. And just for size reference, 2000 watt Honda generator. Now, what exactly is a portable power station? Well, it's a box that has lithium batteries, a DC charger, and an inverter, all combined into one easy-to-use container. The Delta Max 1600 acts as a 2000 watt generator, but it can actually run 2800 watt appliances thanks to X-Boost. It can even surge up to 5000 watts. In comparison to our 2000 watt Honda gas generator, that only runs at 1600 watts with a surge of 2000, so that wattage number is very different between the two. The Delta has way more ports too. Its inverter allows for 6 20 amp AC plugs, and on the DC side, you've got 2 USB-A, 2 USB-A fast charge, and 2 USB-C power delivery. There's even a cigarette lighter adapter and 2 old school DC 5521 plugs. From a storage perspective, the 1600 ships with 1.6 kilowatt hours of lithium battery storage, which can be increased up to 6 kilowatt hours by adding additional battery banks. You should know that these are NCM lithiums, which means they get about 800 charge cycles as opposed to lithium iron phosphate batteries, which get upwards of 3,000 to 5,000. So they aren't going to last quite as long, but they still should last for years to come. Anyhow, enough with the specs. Let's see how this thing performs in the real world. So the first job we're going to use the Ecoflow for is transferring this 300 gallons of water into this big storage tank. We're going to use a 1/2 horsepower transfer pump. It runs on AC power, uses quite a bit of energy. Alright, so got the water from the tank in. And then into the big tank. Now before we turn it on, you always got to prime the pump. We're going to open that, open this. So the water starts coming. Gosh. That wasn't supposed to happen, but it brings up a good point about these units. They are not very waterproof, and now I've gotten water all over it. So I'm going to dry it off before we start. We are still at 100%, so let's plug it in and let's see how much power it uses. I'm using almost 1,000 watts, this 1/2 horsepower transfer pump. So this is gonna run for a little while until this is all transferred over, and we'll see how much battery we have left at the end of it. so I did see this get up to 1100 watts when it was running. It took 15 or 20 minutes, and it drew the battery down to 74%. So my other 4 or 5 water runs that I still need to do, I'm gonna have to power that with our main power system because I still gotta use this for some other stuff. So let's see what else we can do with it. Behind me, you'll see a project that we're right in the middle of. It's our earth bag chicken garden. And so we are using this cement mixer here in our dirt pit, and we're mixing up batches of dirt and Portland cement to either fill the bags, which you can't see anymore because we've covered them, or to make our final plaster coat, which is the step that we're on now. Usually we use our Honda 2000 generator. It's very noisy and smelly though. So we're gonna use the Ecoflow and do a batch and see how much power it uses. Now, since we checked last time, it's just been sitting out a couple hours. It's already down to 73%, even though it hasn't been doing anything. So, let's see how much power the cement mixer uses. Empty, it's using about 220 watts. So let's load it up and see if it changes. So with material in it, it's closer to 300 watts. Obviously, if we're doing this work, we're doing more than one load. On a cement mixer, it's about to rain, so we're not gonna do like a full day's work. But I can tell you from previous experience, Ecoflow sent us this 220 watt foldable panel, and the days that we have used it out here and worked, you know, for 3 or 4 hours at a time, when this is connected to it, it usually keeps it topped off because you're not running the cement mixer all the time, so those in between times this panel is able to charge the battery back up. So we shouldn't be losing any power running the cement mixer. We're racing against the storm today, so on to the next project. Okay, next job. We're gonna chop some straw. So in some of our earth and plaster techniques, we use very finely chopped straw. We have this Sunjo, what do you call this, a leaf chopper? Leaf chopper. We gotta do it twice though. We need it finely chopped. So we're gonna run this whole flake of straw through twice. We're gonna see how much power it uses. We're at about 72% right now. So safety first, let's go. It's a good amount of straw chopped. I saw it using between 13 and 1400 watts. So let's see what's left. We're down to 65%. So I'm not chopping any more straw. Let's do the next thing. Now that we're done with our hard work, it's time to make an icy frappuccino. So we got our Ninja blender hooked up to the Ecoflow, still at 65%. So let's turn this on and see how much power it uses and how much battery we have left when we're done. That took a lot less than I thought. It's still a 65%. I did see it surge up to about 1500 watts, but mostly it was around 800 watts when it was in use. So we can make a whole lot of these before we kill the battery on this. The last thing we did was charge a few devices. With all those USB ports on the front, we had a lot of options. We could charge small things with the USB-A ports, and even larger tablet-sized devices with the USB-C. This is also a good point to talk about the Ecoflow app. When you connect and you pull it up on your phone, you can see all sorts of useful information like the battery state of charge, the temperature, any AC loads, and each individual USB port load, which is pretty cool. There's even access to deep level settings as well. Alright, we've been using this thing all day, and after charging those tablets and phones and AirPods, it's down to about 63%. So let's talk about charging it back up. This unit can take a max of 800 watts of solar, so it's going to take a while to charge it back up this way. This is fine if it's sitting in the garage with that little 240 watt panel attached and it's just running a vent fan, maybe charging some tool batteries. In that case, it would probably take a day or two to get all the way back up to 100%. If I'm in a hurry, there's the AC option. I can plug it into AC power and it can charge really fast, like 1600 watts. If you're in even more of a hurry, you can plug it into your AC power and plug up 800 watts of solar panels and charge it real fast. I'm going to hook it up to AC power for about an hour and then charge the rest via solar tomorrow. And by the way, our AC power is actually generated by even more solar. That's right, we're completely off grid. We have a massive 7200 watt solar panel array with 28 kilowatt hours of lithium storage and a 5000 watt inverter. It powers our entire property. If you want to get all the nerdy details on that setup, make sure you watch this video. Now, let's talk pros and cons of a system like this, and then we'll tell you how to save a bunch of money if you're interested in one of these. First of all, these units have a ton of power packed into their tiny frames. The fact that you can get a 5000 watt surge on this little box is really impressive. And while I was pushing it pretty hard, running pretty large appliances that used 1000, 1500 watts. If you're doing little things like charging your laptop or your phone, maybe watching TV with it, that battery is going to last a really long time. It also has loads of convenient ports. I mean, I love our Honda generator, but it basically just has 2 plugs on the back. This has got all the DC plugs, all the AC plugs, all the USB plugs, and by the way, bonus points for including high power USB-C and fast charge USB-A. It is really convenient that everything is basically plug and play. I mean, I love that we DIY'd our own big off-grid solar system, but there are wires and components and connections and crimps and it was very complicated to set up. And this is all just already built for you. So if you're looking for a quick, easy way to provide a decent amount of power and sort of plug in whatever you want without a bunch of research, this is the way to go. I also like that there's multiple ways to charge it. You can charge it with solar, the AC plug, even with a cigarette lighter plug in your car. And you can combine those things together for even higher and faster charge times. And finally, these can be used as a battery backup in your house because they have such a high surge wattage. I mean, they can run just about any appliance in your house already, so you can just pull it out, plug stuff in, do whatever you need to do until the power comes back on. It's really handy to have around. Now let's talk about cons. Compared to a gas generator, these are definitely more fragile, and we almost said no to even reviewing this type of unit just because of where we live. We live in the high desert of Arizona, very harsh, dusty, dry, but also very wet during monsoon climate conditions. And these solar generators have a lot of very delicate electronics in them. And so with my gas generator, I can just leave it sitting out in the snow and the wind and the rain, and it always starts up when I come back to it. But if I let this out and it got too hot, it could bake some of the internals. If it got wet, it could short circuit. If it got too cold because it has lithium batteries, that could damage those batteries. There's a lot of things that could go wrong there. So I know most people are going to be using these inside, and maybe that's not a big deal. But if you want to use it outside in a situation like ours, it is definitely something you want to keep in mind. And it's also why our unit now mostly stays inside that Shelter Logic rebuild, because we want it to be covered and protected as much as possible. These things are expensive. I mean, we could DIY and build ourselves a similarly sized system, but it wouldn't be nearly as portable or convenient. The inverter does seem to draw a lot of power even when it's not in use, and I understand inverter phantom draws and all that, but in this case I saw the battery drop anywhere from 10 to 20% overnight, which seemed like a lot to me. My final nitpick, which is pretty small, is that for you to connect the app on your phone to the unit, you have to connect via Wi-Fi, which means connecting to the Ecoflow's own little Wi-Fi network that it creates. Now you can connect its Wi-Fi network to your main Wi-Fi network, but they only support 2.4 gigahertz, which nobody really does anymore. Like, I'm on 5 gigahertz, so I wasn't ever able to like really test the thing and keep it connected to the internet. It'd be really great if they had like a Bluetooth, so I could just get near it and pop open the app and see the stats and stuff. Our Victron units are really good about that. But at the end of the day, like, once you get it set up, you shouldn't really have to be messing with it that much anyway. It's just not that big a deal. Now look, obviously Ecoflow sponsored this video by sending the unit for us to review. And they asked that we put this review video out in July because they do a big Prime Day sale this time of the year. And by big, I mean up to 48% off. If you feel like an Ecoflow would be the right fit for you, now is definitely the time to pick one up. And by now, I mean July 4th through the 17th of 2022. If you use our link, we'll get a small commission on the sale, so check the description if you're interested. Okay friends, that is all that I've got. I hope that this video gives you a better idea of what an Ecoflow Max Delta is capable of during a hard day's work here on an off-grid homestead. We'll see you next time.